Okay, this is a Kenmore direct drive washer motor. Admiral and Roper and many of these brands are this style of motor. And if you start your washer and just hear a hum, you want to check out all possibilities of what it is. You can fix this. There's plenty of videos out there that are going to show you, how to take the motor out, how to drop it out, and it's all very easy. Nothing hard there. I just wanted to get to I want to do a video for you guys to explain something that isn't out there. And people hear a hum in the motor, they think the motor's bad, and if you check the obvious, the tranny isn't locked up. You can go to the back where you can see me spinning this armature or rotor. Now in the back of it is where the coupler is, where it joins up with the transmission. If you have the motor in and you can spin the armature, then your tranny's not locked up. If you can't spin it, it's either your tranny's locked up, or more likely your water pump that fits on the front of this, that pumps the water out into your drain. The water pump could have an obstruction in it, like a piece of clothing, etc. It could be bound up, and if that water pump is bound up, the armature will not move. It'll be bound up and it'll hum. It'll just go and you'll think, oh, holy shit, what's going on? All right, so if your trannies, if you can just go behind and spin the motor by spinning the coupler and it moves, it means everything's free. You don't have a tranny problem, you don't have a water pump problem. If it is locked up, pull the motor out, or first of all, pull the water pump out and put in the appropriate, you can use anything you want, a very large screwdriver, and stick it in there very gently into the water pump and rotate it. And if it does not move, that's probably your problem. So check if your water pump's obstructed, check if your tranny is freely moving. If that's the case, then you have to check two more things. And that would be this capacitor on the top. If the capacitor is starting to blow or getting weak, it isn't charging the motor enough to have both windings, main and auxiliary windings, which would put it into phase, meaning it would the second winding is to bring the RPM very quickly up to operating RPM. So you need both windings to keep it in phase. If you have a hum and you can grab this armature while it's humming and spin it, and it finally starts to go real slowly, but it's moving, okay, then chances are it will be your capacitor. But also, believe it or not, this thing here isn't just a terminal where all these wires plug in. It's also a switch. This is what we call the centrifugal clutch switch. And this is great because this motor will not come apart. It's fused together, it's welded together, it doesn't come apart. And there is, on this armature right in here, is a centrifugal switch that when the RPM gets up fast enough, it pops away. It stays, it's just because of centrifugal force, the switch will pull in as soon as the RPMs come up, meaning it'll disconnect this. This is actually a switch that has a lever on it. I wish I just got done fixing it. But let me tell you something. In here are contacts similar to old points in a motor, like when you used to set your points in a car. It might be before a few of you guys, but when I was just a kid, we would change out points in cars, and it's the same principle. There's a lever on this switch. You take this switch off by this Phillips screw. You pull this off and photograph every one of these wires, and you can document it and write it on a piece of paper where each one of these wires go. Black, white, blue, yellow, and this one's white. I put little blue dots on it so it made it different than the other white. But I just diagrammed it on a piece of paper. I also photographed it, and then I yanked off each one of these terminals. It's just like a female-male terminal, and pull this off. Pull each one of them off with a snip nose pliers. Pull it off, pull it off, pull it off, and then undo this screw, this Phillips screw. Then this switch comes right out, straight up, and then you'll see it's got a little lever on it, and this little lever goes into the centrifugal clutch, and it's actually very simple. The lever is pressed in when it's ready to operate. Meaning it's pressed in so that there's contacts, and there are two metal contacts that are touching, giving it continuity. So the lever, when it's in, means it'll be both phases, both windings will be active once it gets hit with the juice from the capacitor. So when you turn on you get to the head of the washer and you pull the switch open, and it delivers power to the capacitor, and then the capacitor delivers power to the motor via this switch. It's going to give you a full boat. It's going to give you like turbocharged full load of juice to get this motor up and running. So when I said if you've checked for obstruction, no tranny obstruction, no water pump obstruction, then you can test your capacitor, but I don't have a capacitance tester. It's special. It's not just your regular multi-tester. But look, people say, well, it's within spec. Mine was within spec with a multi-tester, so I kind of disregarded that it was the capacitor. But in this case, it was the capacitor. But also, I took this switch off, and I took this red cover off, which is really easy. Once the switch is out, this red cover can just slip out. It's like almost like a cardboard plastic cover. It comes out, and you can see how it works in there. And if you have if you're good with your hands to any degree, you'll figure it out. You can see the lever as you push down, and you can see the contact it makes. There's two sets of contacts in here, or points, and one set of contacts is engaged when the lever is I guess in the open position. In the open position, one set of contacts is engaged, and then when the centrifugal clutch pulls in, when it starts running at full RPM, it disconnects, that lever drops, and then it's in the closed position. So it's really a simple lever. It basically gives extra amperage to the motor when it's for startup to get it up to RPM, and then the lever closes. So then another set of contacts comes into play. So when one set of contact touches, when the lever's in the closed or depressed position, and then when the centrifugal force clutch drops out of the way, the lever drops, engaging another set of contacts in here. It's very simple. You can clean these contacts. People use way too harsh of sandpaper. You want to use a very, very small piece of sandpaper. I was folding it over half the size of like an emery board, and I was using 400 grit sandpaper. That's all you want to use. And you want to put the sandpaper in so that you want to fold it so both sides of the sandpaper have the roughness to it, and you just want to stick it between the contacts of one and clean it up and down, and then you want to do it to the other one, and you can blow it out with compressed air or whatever, or you can use some sort of contact cleaner if you want. But I wanted to make sure this switch was good. You can buy the switch. It's $50. It's unnecessary, but this is like a 20-year-old motor, and a lot of people won't even know about this switch. That's why I'm doing the video. They will just say, oh, well, I put a new capacitor in, but it doesn't work, so I have to buy a $100 motor. Bullshit. It's the frickin' switch. So if it isn't this switch, you can buy a new switch or clean the contacts, save yourself a boatload of money. This new capacitor cost me $25, and so I just put the capacitor in. This thing kicks ass. The motor is back to good. I should have done a full boat video on this, but everyone's got videos out there, but they don't tell you about this switch, and this is important. If these contacts are dirty, and mine were filthy, and why were they? Because the coupler on the back that joins in the motor to the transmission, it's made out of rubber and plastic. And this thing, when the coupler starts to wear, it kicks off a ton of really fine, silty rubber when it's wearing out. And that gets everywhere. This motor was covered in that silty rubber from the coupler, and there was a lot of soot and garbage inside this switch, 20 years old, of it clicking on and off with a lot of electricity amperage going through it. And those contacts, they get pitted and garbaged up with crap. And so if you just clean the contacts out, make sure that you don't want to go crazy. Use some 400, very light, not very long. Just clean them up, blow them out, put the switch back together, put the wires back in the appropriate places. Make sure you get them all back and which bay it belongs in. Is bay 1 and bay 3, bay 4, bay 5, and bay 7 is where these plugged in. And it's real simple. You don't have to be Einstein, but this switch can be cleaned out, And if it isn't your capacitor, and it's hard to test them, like I said, multi-testers will lie to you, because unless you can actually have a capacitance testing tool, I know they're not cheap, but you know, you can get multi-testers with capacitance, and you want to check that it falls within the range of the microfarads, MFDs, and it has to fall between whatever 324 and 429 microfarads or something, and then you know it's good. But if you, here's my old one. The old one started to leak. There's some goo there, but you know, this old capacitor, you know, even if I thought, oh, you know, it's fine. In the multi-testing, they tell you to, you know, look for a charge, and then it'll drop to, you know, you know, 0 or OL, you know, open. And you know, if it, and you keep switching, you take the positive and the negative and switch it, and if you'll see it rise and then drop. That's fine, but that doesn't tell you dick. The capacitor could be weak, like a weak transistor battery. It just doesn't have enough poop to run this motor. So, like I said in closing, if you don't have an obstruction of the tranny for any reason, and the tranny's working fine, and your water pump is not obstructing and causing the motor not to turn and causing that hum, and you still have the hum, all right, you could clean the switch and put it back in, and then check it, and if it's still dead, then the last resort is you need a new capacitor. You can go out and buy a capacitor, $25 or more, and throw it in, and it may not be your problem, but don't despair. Don't think that, oh, I put a capacitor in, the motor's blown. No, 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 no. These motors are built like fucking German trucks. I'm telling you, it's this switch. This is it, and luckily it comes out. One screw, it's out. So don't be scared. You know, luckily I've been fixing things since I was 7, so nothing's scary to me anymore. Just yank it out, simple, and figure it out. Because if you have an appliance guy come, he's going to lie to you, because they always want to, and he's going, oh, you need a new motor, because then he's going to charge you $200 for a $150 washer. And these front top loading washers are great. These top loaders, they're much better than all that new shit, and they last forever. And you know, what can I say? This is the video that hasn't been done. Capacitor, switch. Check for obstruction of the tranny. Check for obstruction of the actual water pump by rotating it with a screwdriver. If it's bound up, it's binding up the motor, because that thing fits right on here. And there's probably 100 videos of how to tell you how to take one of these apart, and that's not what I care about. It's telling you about what you don't know. This switch, it's an FSP switch, and it can be bought. It's called a washer motor switch. It's $50 on eBay if you want to buy it, if it is your switch. Unnecessary. You can clean it. And also, and very important, while I had the lid off on this thing down on the bench, I used my multi-tester, and I put it on the ohms, or excuse me, I put it on continuity with sound so I could hear it. And I was checking for continuity between, for in this case, I wanted to check between 1 and 7. So I put my positive on there, and I put my negative on the other side, and I depressed the lever. There's a lever you can't see, but I depressed it, and it had continuity. And then I checked the other way that is when the lever is back up and there's no pressure on the lever. I checked continuity on the other set of contacts. So I checked continuity 3 ways on this switch before putting it back in. And then when it was in the motor, I also checked it for continuity, because right now it's in the lever's in the depressed position, and I checked it for continuity at 1 and 7. And then I pulled the clutch. You can pull this centrifugal clutch back with a screwdriver, and you'll see how it works. You can actually grab it with a screwdriver, and if I have one, I will show you. But basically, if this were a flat nose screwdriver instead of Phillips, you can stick that in here, and you can actually see right in here where the clutch is, and it's spring loaded. It's going to go in towards the motor. But you stick a screwdriver in there and pull the clutch back, and I check for continuity also on the second set of contacts. So I live checked it on the motor. I checked it before putting it in, and I had continuity, which means that the contacts were making good, solid, clean contact, and electricity was flowing between the contacts in the depressed position and the non-depressed position on the motor as well. So I was golden. I knew I had it. It was good. In my case, it wasn't the switch, but it was dirty and shit, and it probably would have gone bad on me. And this is a video that you will not find until when I post it. It'll be there. But and I'll appropriately title this, motor hums in my Kenmore washer, and then it'll tell you what the others won't. So thanks. My name's Eric, and I appreciate it. Eric Freeman. I'm the Garbage Day guy, and I've got plenty of videos out there. You'll see. Thank you very much, and we've got it cleared up now, and we got a working washer. Thank you, guys.